Please rise and join us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let the roll call show all board members are present, except for Eric Strandberg. And we have no citizen comments.
Nope.
So we will move on to our reports with, board member reports. And who wants to start, Jen?
Sure. I attended policy committee just before this. And I think that's it in the last 2 weeks.
Melissa?
I had a quick just PTO update to share. We have our cookies and condos tomorrow, which is like on Thursday, which is an informational meeting. We're trying to get drum up some volunteers and bribe them with cookies. So, if any parents that you think might be swayed by a cookie, send them our way. Also, we donated for the family reading pledge. I brought a little sheet because anybody doesn't know what it is, but they're trying to get kids to pledge to reading 20 minutes each night or more. But we donated 200 books to that night and 400 to the ABC night at the primary school, so that each kid, like when they did their pledge, could have a book to take home. So that was pretty cool. We were able to do that. Letter for the playground grant is sent. I went to some referendum presentations, and there is a free vaccine clinic on November 5th from 2 to 6 in the P gyms. So yeah.
I attended the Rum River Co-op governing board last week.
All right, thank you. Don?
Let's see, I had MSBA training, part 3, part A, as a Scott's doing it, so I'll ask the mentor. And I had policy before this meeting, agenda planning. That should be it.
You, Scott?
Yeah, I had policy before this and then the MSBA training that I mentioned.
All right, perfect. I had attended one of the referendum meetings that was here at the City Hall here for Princeton Council, and agenda planning. That was it. Doing council report.
All right, the FFA livestock team, they're headed to state. The Unified Club is having a fundraiser up in Murphy's on November 6th. And the senior all night party had a fundraiser at Pizza Bar last Tuesday. FFA is selling ice cream at lunch. The Tri-M is beginning to meet now. There's a choir concert on the 3rd of November. And it just had their induction yesterday. Musical members are working at Halloween Bash, which is like a haunted hayride thing. Basketball is starting captain's practice. Football has a home quarterfinals against Little Falls, and the PSATs are tomorrow.
Thank you. Superintendent report.
Yeah, it's been a kind of exciting, good couple weeks here. Back to since the last board meeting, we had our walk to school event, which ended up being, I think, one of the coldest mornings we've had this fall. So I think it started at 27 degrees. So kids that came with shorts and T-shirts kind of didn't have quite as fun a walk, but
You just had to walk fast.
they had to walk fast. That's right. And then we had homecoming week along with that week, which is a lot of great events across the district. So that was really fun. Captivated by a great win at the homecoming game by the football team. So that was fun. 50-7, I believe, right? Jesus. And then followed up with parent teacher conferences. And then the MEA break, so really some good things happening there with a lot of parents coming in for parent teacher conferences, and then of course, well-deserved MEA break for our students and staff. Very looking forward to that. For meetings, we've had meetings with Palmer, our admin team meets with Palmer and kind of talks about different strategies, how we can be better on both sides. So that was good. We have a crisis meeting that we have, and that's monthly right now, and we had that meeting to talk about it, make sure all of our crisis planning is in great shape. Climate and culture meeting, talking about making sure our buildings are providing great climate and culture. And then we had our admin meetings, so that kind of took care of meetings. With the chamber, been hitting the breakfasts, but with manufacturing week or manufacturing month being October, we started off, we led that with the breakfast with manufacturers. And any trade owners that are businesses that want to come in for breakfast at the school, we get to show off kind of our needs, if you will, for the referendum. And that was a really good meeting and talk about how we could partner. Since then, the chambers had plastic products, had a morning meeting, or that was the afternoon meeting, right? That was the afternoon meeting. We went to that luncheon meeting, and they showed us the plastic product factory. So that was kind of fun for me to see, and I know others that were there. And then this morning we had crystal cabinets that were showing up there. So so that was another really great site and a good place to partner with the school district. And then I have signed up for the Chamber Leadership Series, and that was last Thursday during MEA, and we had the history of Princeton, so I learned a lot about Princeton during that time, which was really good. And then the rest of the time has been spent a lot on referendum presentations. Since the last time we had a board meeting, I've been out to Santiago, we've had the city of Princeton, we've had Sterling Point presentation, Spencer Brook, Town Hall, our township. Also been to the Fair Board in Blue Hill, and I'm not sure if I mentioned the VFW, but VFW Legionnaires, been to Elam Homes, also been to a Lions meeting and followed up on one that I gave before. And had some coffee shop individual meetings. I've been popping into coffee shops and talking to whoever's sitting around talking and seeing if they want to know anything about the referendum. Been going around town handing out posters and putting those up so that they have information about the referendum. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we want to get the facts out to as many people as we can, and continue to kind of beat that path and get around and talk to a lot of people. And it's gone really well as far as getting information out. But that's my superintendent report.
Thank you. We will move on to item number 6, approve the agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved, Melissa.
Motion's been made by Melissa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric Moons. Any comments or questions on the agenda? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Item number 7, discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any comments or questions on the minutes? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Item number 6, the consent agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved, Melissa.
Motion's been made by Melissa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jen. Any comments or questions on the consent? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. We will go on to our first information item, high school update.
I think we have your slides up here. So I can figure it out. So, okay, hold on. And I still share here, and the right one or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Click on this one? Yep. To share. Yep. And then you go to slideshow and do. That should do it.
Welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Fine, thank you for the opportunity to give you a little bit of an update on Princeton High School. That I know is a little bit difficult to see, but I wanted to share our 2025 MCA results with you. And if you look at the green line, which is the top line, that's the reading scores from 2021 to 2025. So you can see 21, 22, 23, kind of a downward trend, went up in 24, slightly down in 25. The blue line, which is underneath that, is math, and that was trending upward 21 to 22. We had a steep decline to 24, big increase from 24 to 25. And then there's a dot on that, which is the science scores. And for those of you that are in the know, science had a brand new test last year, so there's no previous data because last year was the first year of the test. This gives a little bit better look at where we stood compared to statewide. Those bar graphs are broken down. The top quadrant is exceeds, the green, bright green is meets, the blue is not quite meets, and the gray is did not meet. So in reading, you can see that our scores on the bar compared to the district, compared to the state, the high school itself is on the right, the district is in the middle, state's on the left, very, very close to the same. Very similar with the math scores, which are the bottom bar graph or the middle bar graph. And then the science scores, which you can't see great because of the picture, actually are really good. I wanted to share the statewide reading score was 49.6% meeting or exceeding. And at the high school, we were 49.3. So we were just under the state average. The math scores in the state were 45.2%. And at Princeton High School, we were at 51%. So we were a little bit above the state average there. And science score average across the state was 26.2% of students meeting or exceeding, and we were at 43.3. So we had a pretty significant jump over the statewide average there. Again, MCA results, some of you have seen these for many, many years. Just the cautionary tale is it's a new group of students that take that test each year. So it's really difficult to form any real firm conclusions about what's going on. For example, when we met last year to talk about MCAs as a district admin team, I said our scores are going to be, which ended up being true, but it was because I knew the students that were going to be taking the test last spring versus the students that took it the spring before. And last year's junior class, this year's senior class has a bunch of really high flyer academic students. So I knew if those students took the test, which they don't all do, unfortunately, but if those students took the test, our scores were going to be better. And so it's not that they're not important. I think it gives us a good look at where we are. I have challenged our teachers that even though we have a new group of students taking those tests this year, it is our goal to improve our percentage each and every year by 3%. So we got a totally different group of kids taking that test, but we want to be 3% better than we were last year. And that's going to take a lot of effort on our part. But people are up to the task. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, you just grab it and flip it over. Should slide.
Wanted to just share with you some of the goals at the high school. Just like the rest of the district, the high school has big rocks. Climate and culture for learning is one of those. Wanted to draw your attention to something that I talked about with staff at the beginning of the year, which was, I said, really I want them focused on bringing all students to yes on 3 questions. And the first one of those questions is, do I belong here? All kinds of research out there about students that are connected to school, doing better in school. It's important for students to see school as a place where they belong. And so we really want to make sure that all of our students can say, yes, I belong here. Some of the things that we do, we talk about the significant 72, which is the first 3 days of every school year, trimester, and how important building relationships are with students during those first 72 hours. We had Dave Stewart Jr. come here last year to do staff development with the entire district. He talked about having moments of genuine connection with students, and I've tasked our 9th grade team with charting those to ensure that we are having moments of genuine connection with each and every one of our 9th graders. We obviously do PBIS, and I think this group has heard us talk about Speak Up before, which is basically just talking to students about the importance of speaking up when you see students not behaving properly, especially when it deals with racism, bigotry, or bullying and things like that. The second of those 3 questions that I talked about is, can I do this? It's important for students to have a feeling that what they're being asked to do is something that they are able to do, or that they believe the teacher can help them do. And so one of the things that we're talking about on the student learning team is, what are the things that we do with all students, what we call tier 1 instruction, the instruction that all students get, to ensure that students have that feeling of, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. I mentioned that we have both a math and a reading goal, which is to improve by 3% in 2026. The last question of the 3 is this meaningful? And this is really big for me personally, because it's my belief that a lot of the struggles students have in school is trying to figure out what the connection is to their current lives or what they see their future lives being. And too often they're unable to make that connection. And so they don't see what we're doing today as being important for them either today or in the future that they see for themselves. So we have to do a very good job of helping them find that connection. That kind of trickles into the third big rock, which is multi-tiered systems of support. Both the can I do this and is this meaningful are questions that we wrestle with in the multi-tiered systems of support team. You may have heard from Jessica Town Gunderson, you might hear from other principals in their updates, but we're trying to do a district-wide system of learning walks. I've talked to my teachers about how important it is to monitor learning in the classroom. We should be each day monitoring learning to determine what the next step is, using data to inform instruction. And it's the same for the system. We need to gather data about the system so that we can monitor to make sure the things that we've deemed important for the system are actually in place and being used effectively.
Is that what the learning walk is? That the system?
The learning walk is the device that we'll use to monitor the system. We're going to be looking for things like learning targets in the classrooms. You've probably heard about that before. This is slightly different though. We're going to be talking to students because it's not just enough to have the learning target posted in your room. You have to do something with it. So students have to know what that target is. So if we walk around and talk to students, we want to know that at least 50% or more of them, they know what the learning target is. They know where we're going. We are also at the high school. This is not universal to all the buildings, but we're talking about the use of proficiency scales, which is really trying to help students take ownership of their learning. A typical proficiency scale has 4 levels. The third level would be whatever the standard is that you're trying to get a student to demonstrate. And the level right below that is all the things a student would need to be able to do in order to do that standard. And so a student should be able to identify, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. We're learning how to do that. I don't know how to do that yet. I don't know how to do that yet. So they kind of know where they're at. They know what's coming and they know what the standard is. And so those dovetail with the learning target to ensure that students know the why behind what they're doing each and every day, and which should improve that. Is this meaningful? We also talk a lot about using common evaluative assessments. That's all about making sure that it doesn't matter which teacher you have. If you are in intermediate algebra, you are getting the same experience. So we're trying to make sure that we're using common assessments so that we can look at that data so that we can drive the instruction and we see, oh, we're weak in this area. We have to do more of this. Oh, we're doing really well here. We maybe don't have to continue to do as much of this as we thought we needed to do. And really making decisions more in the moment instead of, we have this plan and then we're not going to deviate from the plan for the entire trimester. We want to make sure that, yeah, we have a plan, but as we go, we adjust the plan. Couple of things that help us identify students who might need additional support. So MTSS is really about tier 2 and tier 3. So tier 1 is instruction that all students get. Some students identify that they need not just that, but something else. Some students identify that they don't just need that and something else, they need even more. And so we have positive intervention team that meets twice a month to talk about students that might be struggling, whether that's academically or behaviorally. And then we use the EduClimber system, data warehouse basically, so we can go in and look at a student and immediately see, is this a student that was talked about in middle school? Is this a student that we've talked about before? What are the test scores that this student has had? Is this student on an IEP? All that information is in EduClimber. So we're really working hard with staff to go to that tool before they come to the positive intervention team. Go investigate a little bit about that student on your own. You might see that this was a student that was talked about in middle school. This strategy was implemented, it worked. Maybe we can try a similar thing. We're trying to do all of this while using this instructional model as this is the way we do things at Princeton High School. You've seen the Princeton paradigm before, but really we're focusing on that core instruction. You can see learning targets. The learning progressions is part of that proficiency scale that I mentioned, making sure that we have success criteria so students know this is what we're looking for. Kind of that goes back to this meaningful. If I know where I'm supposed to be going and how I'm going to get there, I'm more likely to do that. So really, if you said, what are you focusing on at the high school this year? I'd say those 3 questions and trying to get all students to yes. What questions do you have?
Questions or comments for Ryan?
I'd really like to say that I really like that one of those first questions is, do I belong here? Because we are not struggle, we struggle, or we strive, I should say, to make sure that they all feel included. And I really appreciate that that's top priority, because once they feel included, they'll.
It goes back to those psych classes you had in college, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If my basic need of feeling of belonging isn't there, I'm not going to have much success at any other level. So thank you. Do we entertain questions from the audience?
Not, no.
Okay.
Did you attribute the score drop in the 22-23 years due to the COVID and the remote learning, or is there something?
Jerry, can I have you ask that after?
Oh, sure, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Right, I just want to say I appreciate all the work that high school's doing. I think the three questions are spot on. You know, we talk about, you know, we want everybody to belong. That's staff and students. And we want all staff and students to know that I can do this. The fidelity in the classroom is really when kids bring their learning to another level. When they know that they can do it, they feel confident about this. I think it's really good. And I'm always a big purpose person, so it is meaningful. Yeah, and then you have more drive to do it. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on here to enrollment updates.
Okay, we thought we'd give you a snapshot of where, we're looking at October 1. That's kind of the catch-all to start the whole enrollment process for the year. Just know that this is really our first look. There'll be another 1 or 2 state uploads that will, you know, massage the numbers. But overall, we are looking pretty good. Most of that is due to our online program that we started a year ago, K-8. You can see that there's 211. If I recall right, I think last year at October 1, we were around between 60 and 70 kiddos as we started the program. So that program is growing. If you subtract that off of the total, our seat base is not growing, but we knew that. So I did put an initial look into our Ellers enrollment analysis, and because this is our student enrollment, as you know, we get paid at the end of the year, so that analysis from now until the end of the year, and as of right now, from our projections, that estimate is about 80 students. So we're looking around 600,000, but remember, we'll have costs against that. That's not a pure revenue source. It will have expenses against it as we pay for the platform and the staffing for it, so. Do you have anything to add, Jason?
Any questions about enrollment? We're looking good so far. All right, we will move on to our one and only action item. We need a motion to select our election canvassing for November, and we need to pick a date here. 10th, 11th, 12th, or 13th, and then we need a time. So what works for people?
You need at least 4 board members.
4 board members, yeah. And we have done these, because we only need 4 for a quorum. I think we've done them before, like even during the day, if you can get away at lunchtime, or if you can be here in the morning, or.
You're the 10th, 11th. Other than teaching, I can be pretty much anytime during the day or those nights.
I was favoring the 11th, but it is Veterans Day. Is that a restricted?
Oh, yeah, Veterans Day, we would not be able to hold it.
So the 10th would work, or the 13th. The 12th, we got MSBA training, Scott and I do, so. But I could do during the day.
Okay.
Or before.
How many people, can 4 people do the 10th?
Yeah, what's that?
Whatever time you guys want, I can do it too.
Can we do it during the day? So I can just come after them, like 10 a.m.
We do it,
A little later, cause I gotta get through phone.
Depending on how much later.
can we meet, later?
Okay.
What time works for you, Jen?
I only have 1 commitment during the day at 2 o'clock.
We do 2?
No, that's when I have a commitment.
Oh, that's when we have. Oh, okay. Suggestions? Noon works.
Not
Yeah.
during the day.
I got I can do it, so yeah, I can do whatever.
We only need 4 people here.
Yeah, I could do whatever
Okay.
time on Monday.
Let's do the tenth at noon.
Okay.
So who can do that date? Cause I can't.
We got 5.
Sounds good.
Let's do that here.
November 10th, yep.
At 12. You wanna come to the statewide election, trying to send board people, that's an MJC. I think I'm busy at then.
All right, so then we need a motion.
Alright, are you ready? I move to set the election canvassing for November tenth at noon, or sorry, at 12 p.m. Is that all?
Yep, that's all we need.
So,
Motion's made by Melissa, seconded by Eric Minks. Any comments or questions about that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are set for the 10th. And we have no additions to the agenda. So, if we could have a motion to adjourn, then we will go into our referendum presentation.
Moved.
Motion's been made by Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Well, we got 3 seconds.
No, I just, I'm out.
Scott. So a motion's made by, Don, seconded by Scott. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right. We will go into our referendum presentation.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Football game. Thank you. And volleyball's tomorrow night.
Yes, yeah, section football tonight is, we're hosting over home on most of this. Yep. All right. I'm sure. So, board members, I feel like, one of the things I would want to do is make sure that you've all seen the presentation I've been going out and doing. I've, had a chance to really get to know this community well over the last month to 6 weeks. I think this would probably be presentation 35, 37, something like that. So I've been a few places, seen a few things and talked to a few people. So it's been really a good experience for me because I get to know everybody fast, but also to get the word out for the referendum. So I'm gonna walk through it like I would in a regular presentation. Some of you have seen this a few times, but I think it's good that one, we will have it on film. So if anybody wants to go see what the presentation is all about, they'll be able to see it. So to start with, this presentation is about our referendum. And the way I always start this presentation is, hi, my name is Pat Vine. I'm the school superintendent. I started on July 2nd, also closed on our house on July 2nd, living in Princeton, loving Princeton, and getting to know Princeton. The one of the things I found out once we moved here right away in July, I go out and introduce myself as the new superintendent, and I hear, oh, you're with the schools. Well, the schools are great. Teachers are great. Students are great. We really like our schools and really care about our schools. I feel that pride everywhere I go. And it's really fun to feel that. That's the kind of school district I want to be in, and now I am in it, so it really feels good to be a part of it. But then, as we all know, the board approved in August to go up for a referendum, so that meant, oh, Pat, you're gonna meet this community really fast. And I did. I've got now quite a bit now, so I've been going around talking about the referendum and what it means. And for the first screen that you see up there is really the screen that shows the most about what's happening in our construction part of this referendum. We have a high school, and if we look at the screen here, that light orange is what I call the core classrooms of our high school that was built in 1966. When that was built, we were having about a class load in the high school about 500. I'm graduating about 125-ish. So that core classrooms were built for less students than we have now. Right now, we're a little over 1,000 students still going to those same core classrooms. And in those core classrooms, you have square footages of the classrooms are around 650 to 750 when it should be 1,000 for what we're putting in those classrooms now. And what I mean by that is back then you could have 20, maybe 25 in a classroom, they'd fit. Well, now we're putting 30 to 35 students in a classroom and we're doubling up their chairs and the kids are sitting tight and they're up against the walls because we just don't have room in those classrooms. So the classrooms they don't fit our student body anymore. They've aged out, if you will. And then the new construction would be all the orange spots. And when you look at the orange spots, when you look at those construction spots, it's really the major one is the bottom left here. And that's where our industrial tech area is at. It's our CTE, our career technical education. It's our shops, if you will. That was a pole barn that was built in 1970, and it was supposed to last just temporarily. And now 55 years later, we're still cramming students into that pole barn to learn all these areas of CTE, which if you go in there, you're gonna see it's extremely tight. It's not very well lit, and the exhaust is not there, and for getting the airflow through there, and the walls are asbestos. So we have a lot of concerns in there. It's not fit for the kind of type of learning we need. And if these kids want to go out and learn something in the industry, we want them to be in the industry standard shop. So that's why that's a big priority for us. And you'll find out later in the presentation that we actually have about 50% of our students that do want those certifications in trades so that they go out and work in our communities. So this not only is about the schools referendum, but it's about a community project that makes area for kids to get ready to go work in the workforce around us. The other orange spots that you see, some will be as we get these spaces bigger, we'll need more classrooms, so some of that will go in those spaces. So, with all that said and done, our construction engineers have priced that out to do that job. It'd be about 49 million, and that's what this presentation talks about. So there's a 3-minute video I'd like you to listen to that kind of summarizes all of what I. That's a video that summarizes pretty much what the referendum's all about. It's one that we have on our website. Anybody can share it to anybody that they want to know more about the referendum. But then the rest of my PowerPoint, I'd like to go through and talk a little bit about each part of that video, if you will. And then to start with, I talked a little bit about how I found that Princeton has a lot of pride in their community. We do as a community, we do as a school system. There's a lot of work that's been done in the school system to enhance our curriculum so that we can provide students the curriculum and education they need to be ready for the next part of their life, if you will. But our facilities don't match what we're doing with our curriculum. They're outdated where our curriculum is updated. And we found that in the past at, Princeton School District, if there's a need, the voters said, yes, we'll take care of that need. Back in 1998, there was a need for a middle school, and that was very obvious. So the board said, or the voters said yes. In 2014, there was a need for a primary school, and when the need was there, voters said yes. This referendum came about because of a task force that worked after the 2021 election. And what they found was that the voters said, don't put any fluff on this. And what I mean by fluff, the last one had a turf field and it had a field house. And that the voters said, no, we don't want fluff, we want academic spaces. So it's back to, this is the need. And there's nothing extra of a want here. It's a need referendum. So this is what the task force found out. That's what got proposed to the board and the board approved. The other thing they said from the task force after all their input they took over 2 years was that if it stayed at $17 or less per month increase on an average home, that is a tolerable amount that this community would accept. And so when the board looked at it, they didn't want to go to 17, they kept it down to $15 at the monthly increase on an average home. So understanding the need, like I said, our academics have changed. We now have career academies where kids figure out exactly what career they want to go into. But many of those career academies do not have spaces that allow our kids to learn in the areas that they need to learn to get them prepared for the next level of where they're heading. As we looked at the video and we talked about the CT area, the shops, the industrial tech area, whatever you want to call it, poor ventilation, overcrowded, asbestos walls, and inadequate lighting. It's kind of a dungeness like setting when you go in there. Our kids make it work and our staff make it work. It's incredible how they do it, but it definitely does not fit the needs of an industry standard that they'll see later in life. One of the fastest growing careers for kids that they want to go into is culinary education. And we're having our kids learn on 1970s stoves, probably older than the ones you have in your household. And when they go into a chef area in a kitchen for after high school, they're not going to be prepared for what they'll be working with. So that's why culinary arts has become important. One of the things that's really tough for us is that our certified nursing assistants, our CNA program, we can't offer it because we don't have space, we don't have the equipment. We have our kids actually drive up to Malacca schools to get their CNA. And we can only send 5 at a time. That's all they'll allot for spots. And we'll have over double that want to be in our programs. We have 5 per try. There's more than 30 each year that want a CNA, but they can't get it through us, so they end up having to pay for it later after high school. So this would be a game changer for not only our kids, but the community, so they can have CNAs in our community. Talks about the aging classrooms, over 60 years old, too tight, too small. You can see that double alignment of desks. I know I'm kind of a bigger guy, but I just can't imagine having to sit elbow to elbow next to a student every period of the day and stay focused on learning. Our kids do it, they're wonderful at it, but it's a tough environment for learning. Our science labs, they're pushing our desk right up into the science lab areas. We have just a one exhaust hood for experiments, so they have to take turns taking an experiment. It takes days to get through all the experiments, so it's a classroom setup that's not meant for 1,000 students. It's meant for 500. We also have infrastructure issues. Our boiler is the original, 1964.
It's been welded on multiple times. When will it finally give out? We're not sure, but it's getting as close as you can get. It cannot monitor heat well enough where one room will be 60, the other one will be 90 during the winter time. The kids will be going through that throughout their day. We also know that there's a locker room down in the basement that we have for our Phi Ed and our opposing teams. It's kind of, again, back to a little bit of a dungeon setting, hard to supervise. It's quite a way far space away from where our Phi Ed classes are held. A middle school roof needs repair. It's over 25 years old. So once that's over 25 years old, the roofs start deteriorating in Minnesota in winter. So we know it's leaking a lot now, so we'll have to replace that. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's needed. The hallways are tight. The stairwells are really tight, so those will have to be redone during this project. So one of the other things that you'll see on the referendum is a tech levy, and that's to take care of all of our technology, not all of it, but most of our technology expenses. We run about a $1.2 million budget to handle all of our software, our devices for students, devices for staff, for infrastructure, for Wi-Fi, all of our different resources needed in the classroom that relate to technology. And so with that $750,000 tech levy, that would free up operating costs so we can maintain our operating budget for longer, knowing that we have 750 coming for our tech. So why does it matter? This matters because our facilities are run down and undersized, and we do have 50% of our students that want to get certification, want to be in apprenticeships, and want to get out and work in our community. So this takes care of kids that will be able to get right back out into our community. So it's really a community effort along with the school and student effort. If you ever hear, I don't get bonds, I don't get levies, what's the difference, what's going on with that? A bond is for buildings. It's an easy phrase, bond is for buildings. And what I mean by that, it has to be a hard structure where you actually build it. You build it out like you would build a house. And when you get a bond, it's like getting a home loan. It's a fixed dollar amount for that home loan. That's the dollar amount that you have that you pay off over, for us, will be 20 years. And we'll have all the taxpayers add their payments to that bond payment, if you will, over the 20-year bond that we have for it. So it's one set amount, can't go up, can't go down. It just stays at that's the dollar amount. We took the home loan out, if you will, or the bond loan out. The technology levy, now that's for learning. Levies are for learning. So that means it's part of your operating costs. In the state of Minnesota, you can't combine those two categories. If it's about capital and buildings, that's one fund. The fund is operating and levies, and that's another fund. They cannot cross and help each other out. So the capital levy here will take care of their tech funds that we just talked about, and that will give more operating expenses so that we can help with teachers' wages and heating and cooling and snow removal and all the operating expenses you have in the school district. So here's the referendum. It's a $49.14 million building bond. It's for 20 years, and it'll take care of all those projects we just got done talking about, updating all the facilities and the infrastructure needed. And then it's a $750,000 a year capital levy, which is we call the tech levy because it's for all the technology. And the reason we do tech levies, it helps the taxation across our residents. It's a better way of doing it versus an operating levy. Operating levy would cost more across our taxpayers, so the tech levy helps us out in that category. So tax impact, we talked about it'd be a $15 a month on average home increase to the tax that you have right now, about $180 a year on an average home for that for this referendum. The tech levy is for 10 years, the building bond is for 20, and there is tax relief. So if you have ag property, this is an automatic one the state does. We still get the funding from the state, but all the farmers get the relief automatically on their taxes. And it's a 1 acre and their homestead. And then there's a 70% reduction on their property. So it drastically reduces the farm tax that used to be. It's probably about 12 years ago that got changed. And quite honestly, I grew up on a farm, so when this happened 12 years ago, I was really happy because farmers were getting nailed with referendums before. Now it gives them the relief they deserve. The homestead credit, again, a newer one that helps with school bonding. And if you have a household that has under $139,000 for income, you're eligible to get refunds from paying into a school bond. And it's a refund anywhere from 53 to 85%. So it's a really nice refund. So that's something I think our voters should look at if they're in a household that makes less than 139,000. There's also a senior tax deferral if you're over 65 that defers your taxes, and there's renter's tax. So there's a lot of tax relief opportunities. So when this seems like a stressful thing, you might want to look at, it might not be as stressful as you think if you look at your tax relief opportunities. If it's approved, what happens? All those spaces get updated, just like we said. And not only does it get modernized and we get to prepare high school that's now can adequately handle the 1,000 students, it helps us for decades because this construction, we talked to the construction engineers, they say this now will be a high school that should be able to last for 50 to 60 years. If we grow, we may have to add on a part of the building, but that's a small thing that could maybe even happen with lease levy, depending on the size. So without growing, we're in great shape for decades with this high school. And it's projected to be completed in the fall of 2028. If it fails, if this fails, that space does not change. We still have those same classrooms that are undersized. We still have a CT area that is not adequate for learning. It's not even close to industry standards that you would normally have for kids going out and seeing what it looks like in real life. So if it fails, we wouldn't have enough budget to repair it and make that move on to be at the level that we're talking about in this referendum. So our classrooms would continue to be what they are, and more than likely there would be another referendum that come back, and construction costs really don't go down. They usually go up. So the next time around, it'd be more millions to fix what we're talking about this time. And since this is a kind of needs versus the wants, it's kind of, this is the opportunity to get this school set for decades. And I know that sometimes the taxation gets to be a question. I'm not sure that I really I feel comfortable paying extra taxes for this. I think two things with that. One, the state set this up decades ago, almost century long time ago, of saying if a community wants a good school, they need to build that building. It doesn't come from the state, it's local money, stays in the local area, and the local taxpayers help build those buildings. So this is a local tax responsibility. Now, with that said, I've had a lot of realtors tell me, Pat, if you don't keep up a school with good standards and you let it start to slide, so do your home values. Because strong schools bring in community members that want to live here. Schools that aren't as strong, that aren't supported, all of a sudden your school starts to deteriorate, and so do your home values. But they don't go down by $15 a month. Home values go down by thousands. So it's kind of, when you look at your taxes, you gotta see, is it a community thing we want? And is it something that I want to keep my home values at where they're at? So voters have a choice. We've had open voting going on. It's right behind this hall right here in the district center. You can come in and early vote all the way up till November 3rd, 8 to 4 it's open, from Monday through Friday. So come on in, vote there if you'd like. And if you wait till the election day, it's November 4th. And we have two polling areas. It's the Princeton Depot Museum, and it's the Baldwin Township, and those are the townships and cities that it takes care of in those voting locations. And that time is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to vote on election day, 2 weeks from today. So want to know if you have questions, want to submit questions, call us, email us, text us, whatever. There's a QR code to look at our website. It has a lot of information on it. We basically want everybody in the district to know that this referendum's out here and this is what it's for. So that pretty much concludes, what I have. I know that there has been a couple of questions that have come up, that have been consistent. I got some slides that show the building a little more and kind of the industry standards. But the one I probably get the most is tell me a little bit how $15 increase actually can pay off a $49 million referendum. If you look at this chart, this is how school bondings work. Almost any school district you look at, it's gonna look similar to this, where you have a current existing debt, which is in the black squares, and that's the primary school. And so when the primary school starts to drop off 9 years from now, the rest of that tax money can go to this 49 million. And what that does is it sets a price that stays consistent right across the top. Once you raise it that $15 a month on an average home, that's where it stays. And that's why schools do that, so that they don't go up and down and up and down. It stays consistent across the 20 years. And if anything, as you can see on here, I think it's 9, it starts to drop a little. And that's because some of that bonding will start to balance down a little bit. So if anything, it may go down, but the only way it would go up is if we'd have less voters, and we start having people leave our community, because all of our taxpayers have to pay off that home loan together, and that price doesn't change. I did also put in, and here's some of the relief thing, if anybody's interested in those relief, I thought that was kind of interesting. I look at if you make 50,000 in your house income, and you happen to have a $350,000 home, of that 175 you were gonna pay in, you get 119 back. School district still gets the 175, but the rest of it, that 119 was paid by the state, you get it back as a rebate. So, there's some really nice tax relief in there. So with that said, that's kind of my presentation. So I would take questions from the board, or since it's after the board meeting,
Yep, questions
it's
from
open.
the audience,
to the
yes.
audience.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I see that kind of you call light orange.
Yeah.
It looks like pink.
Mhm.
You're gonna be adjusting those classrooms. But how are you gonna still fit 1,000 students when it was built for 600? There's no additional classrooms by the tech area.
Right, so these 2 squares is where we would fit in. Those are pretty good sized squares. You could probably get at least 10 classrooms in there. I know this is a conceptual drawing, somewhere it says conceptual plan, but those blocks have not been designated yet. So I always feel like for in here, every 2 new ones we built, we're tearing down 3 old ones, right? So we're losing a class for every 2.
That's what I'm worried about.
So we have to rebuild them somewhere, and I see it being rebuilt here, here, and here. It was where those classrooms, because you could probably get 10 to 15 right in here alone, because that's a big block. It looks small here, but it's a big block.
So once you put all this together and this gets built, in
Right.
2028, looks like in the fall.
Right.
If I read it correctly. Right now, there's 1,000 students in there. When you get in those classrooms, what's the projected student rate in 10 years from now?
So
Are we gonna do this
it's a great question. I get that asked a lot, and it's really a hard question to answer. And the reason I say it's hard to answer is we've had projections probably in the last 3 to 5 years that have been a little bit of wavering, because we get some students that are going online now that we didn't expect. We get students going to homeschool we didn't expect. Because we really feel this community is gonna grow. I think it's the next movement, if you will, from Zimmerman up. We're gonna get, I just talked to the Baldwin mayor yesterday, and he told me that only 45% of the lots out there, if you will, that are 2.5 acres to 5 acres are built out. So there's a lot more that can come into that, and that's all in our school district. And I know there's 2 developments in the Princeton area, one in Princeton Township and one in Princeton City. So we know that there's gonna be some development. Now, will that mean we'll get more students? Honestly, we all hope, because every student brings us about $7,500 for every student from the state. That's how we get our operating costs. So that really helps us. But for the class, how they fit in here, if all of a sudden we get to 1,200 or 1,400, the way that I would envision that would be, like I said, building, if you take maybe like this block, and make it out even with that, and also you put a hallway between it, and then you put more classes. Right, so that's an addition to your addition, if you will, right? And, every school district gets some, what's called lease levy authority, which isn't a lot of money, it's not 49 million. But, and Michelle, you might be able to answer this better for me of what it is here. I know in, the district I just came from, Waconia, we had about 3 million to 5 million that we kept in lease levy authority in case we had to add on. If there's more students that come, that way we wouldn't have to come back out to the voters. But there's no guarantee on the growth deal, right? If all of a sudden it gets out of hand, then it's we're gonna have to build more than just 10 classrooms.
Is there any history of what the growth has been for the past 10 to 15 years that someone could look at?
Yes,
Just to get an idea, where is that?
yes, we have significant, we look at that every year. Our enrollment look for this year was just the start of it. In November, we start looking heavy at our projections forward. And just with what we have in our seat base right now, we know that the high school will start experiencing lower classes coming in from our elementaries because we're graduating more kids than what we have coming in. And they're at the intermediate school level, those smaller classrooms. So what, we got 4 or 5 years before it hits our high school.
And there's a little bit, we start small kindergarten and it grows a little bit every year. You know, like right now, what are we at, about 180 to 200 in the kindergarten?
205.
And we're graduating 250, so will that 205 turn into 250 by the time they're ninth grade? Maybe. And it could turn into 300 if all of a sudden all these houses start coming. So.
Yeah, that's what we don't know.
Now, those are kind of the wild card ones, but to your point, we have to be thinking forward thinking on where would you add on to if you had to? Right? And it might be every building. You might need a little bit of a wing on the middle school and a little bit of a wing on the intermediate. So it just depends on how fast it grows.
In our classroom size right now, I think I heard 30.
30 to 35 in high school, a lot of classrooms. It's not ideal.
Is there a plan for that?
Well, it's hard, Mary was telling you, there's capital money and there's operating money. So the capital money is for the building, so we'll get the class sizes to fit those many kids in there. But to reduce that, it's gonna take more operating dollars. And right now, we don't have a lot of more operating dollars. We're hanging on as best we can. We're one of the very few schools in the state that does not have an operating levy. There's less than like 12, I think, which is great because we save that money from taxpayers, but for our budget, it makes it really, really tight. So that's why we end up with 30 to 35 in the classroom. Not ideal.
So this may not solve that problem. You got the space, but you don't have the teachers to.
Well, we'll have the same number of teachers, same number of classrooms. Now we'll just have to be able to let the kids fit into the classroom a little better.
So they're gonna keep it at 30.
Good for me, they just got more elbow room.
That's right, exactly.
How much risk reserve is built into the plan? I mean, you've said it's gonna take till 28. We all know costs go up.
Right.
We know that your 49 million is probably an estimate.
So I'm gonna turn it to a little bit to Michelle. I know that the board listened to the task force that brought a lot of the dollars in, but I know from my own experience, I came from Waconia and we built a new elementary and built basically a new high school. And you put a percentage of your contingency.
Yep.
And it seemed like it was like, if I remember right, it was like between 8 and 12%. We put that as contingency just in case, you know, something all goes wrong. And I will say one thing before I ask them the question. I didn't make a lot of friends with the architects or the engineers, because when they come in and tell me that this is what it's gonna cost, I get a little feisty and I'd say, the heck, we're not paying that. You're gonna have to redesign that because our budget is, you know, I gave one today to a friend or a person that asked me how I handle things. I said, we were put in a computer lab and the electrical engineer wanted to put a specialized copper wire underneath the carpet so that the outlets could be really clean and nobody would see where they're at. I said, why are we doing that? You just up the cost 4 times what we budgeted for. He said, well, it's much better. And I said, what's wrong with hanging outlets like our teachers are okay with, I'm okay with, and the student will be okay? Well, it just doesn't look pretty. I said, I don't care if it doesn't look pretty. We're not paying 4 times the cost. So I know I don't make a lot of friends with construction engineers or architects, but that's what I do in meetings. is fight for the district and if this passes, that's definitely what I'll do again. But as far as contingency money, do we know what they're setting aside?
ICS and Wold actually create the educational or the
In the budget
budget
for it?
based on industry standards. I asked them the same question, is the 49 million really gonna be enough? And they said, absolutely. Even with, they put in a percentage based on what construction is going up. And I will tell you that I was part of the primary school here. I was also part of, in another district, built multiple building projects, and in both those cases, we actually came in under, what we expected, so we're able to, expand the projects a little bit. Not like significantly, but we didn't come anywhere near over budget, which, that's that competitive bidding that we do. School districts are required to do competitive bids. The day that we did the primary school, we had probably 10, 15 categories, and we have multiple contractors there, and, they're all fighting for the job. And since we're in central Minnesota, a lot of contractors like to come here. They don't have to travel. And we also like to target our hometown.
Mhm.
And we have some very good contractors here that have worked on our buildings and still continue to work in our buildings.
Thank you.
I was talking to two different or construction workers in the community in the last week, and they said, Pat, do you understand that right now your timing's gonna be really good if this passes? I said, no, tell me more. And they said that a lot of the projects, because of the unknowns and what's happening in the economy, are not going forward. And they both said the same thing separately. I didn't even ask them about it. They said, you're gonna have contractors fighting for your jobs. So our hope is that it comes in and we have that contingency money left, and now we can even enhance and do more in our district. So that's the hope. And, and I know that, I know I'm a stickler when it comes to those meetings, and like I said, they don't like me very much. One of my best stories, we saved a 1.5 million in one conversation because I had my hissy fit. But, doesn't stop me from having them. Any other questions from anybody here tonight? Yes,
What would the cost of a new high school be?
that's a great question. So what the contractors are telling us, if you were to rebuild what we have right now, it's gonna be at least 150 million, if not more. So it would take quite a bit, yeah.
Approximately how long would this last us? Like old barn shed length of time, or?
Well, yeah, kinda, but it won't be a full barn when it's done. People ask about our bonds currently, and the contractors tell us that this is gonna be good. Set your high school up for the next 50 to 60 years, unless we have growth, then we'll have to do some add. But it'll set your high school up for 50 to 60 years. When I look at that in our district, I look at primary schools, great shape, built in 2014, looks really good. Middle school, built in 1998, but we've taken care of it really well. Our custodians are great. It looks in really good shape. That one's still gonna stay for a long time in good shape. Our intermediate could use some more carpet, touch up, maybe a few walls here and there, but overall, the structure's in pretty good shape. So once this bond, if it was to go through, all your major buildings are in pretty good shape and can last for a long time, so that's kind of exciting. And we know 20 years later, all that bond would come off. Will there be another wraparound at that time? Who knows, right? But that's 20 years out.
I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's been a good journey doing all these presentations, so knowing this community, there is a lot of pride, so it's really fun to see. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the questions.
All right.
Yeah, it's now not a board meeting. Did you want to say anything, Amy? Because I usually have that in my presentations too.
I can, I
Yeah.
guess. So Yeah, so we can see more. They've all heard all the stuff. So I'm Amy Anderson. I'm on the Vote Yes Committee then for the referendum. And it is our job to inform people about why they should vote yes. And sometimes it's a really personal reason. I have kids in the district and, you know, the opportunities that they will get from this are certainly something that I would look for. There are people on Vote Yes though that don't have kids anymore in the district. They've graduated out. But they feel that someone helped their kids get through school, right? There were taxpayers that helped them, so now they're gonna do the same thing for somebody else. And really, school, public education is such a community investment. And so when we can get our kids through and have these quality educations and these great experiences, that raises our community standards, right, in the long run. So not just building wise and monetarily, but I think in the long run, when you look at Princeton, are we gonna get kids who are gonna wanna move away because there's not really job opportunities here? And then what happens to the community? Or are we gonna get kids that wanna stay and be a part of some of these trades that are here that they can work at? And so then that builds the community here, that keeps Princeton going. So I think there's many reasons why you would wanna vote yes, but those are just like off the top of my head that I would say. Do you have anything that you would like to add? Or Sherry is also on Vote Yes Committee with me.
Yeah. We have a grandson yet, still in school, he's a third grader. We've got a long time to go, lots of good stuff. And, pretty much all the meetings, we moved here, going December, to try to follow along. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Henry.
It's really not.
I know, can we just gavel?